Hi, I'm Shonda Ramsey, your host and fellow indie author. Are you overwhelmed at the thought of publishing your book by yourself? Has fear kept you frozen in place, unable to write even the first word of your book? Not knowing the steps you need to take shouldn't stop you from writing. That's why I've asked for help from some amazing industry professionals, published authors, and others who are in the same situation as you to share their knowledge on the self-publishing process. Welcome to Dear Indie Author, where we inspire creative independence in every writer. Hey everyone, I am here with my friend Mel. Mel, thank you for joining me. I would like to kick us off with some rapid fire icebreaker questions. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do this.
All right. What is your favorite color?
Purple.
What is your favorite social media platform?
I have to choose Instagram.
That's a hard one to choose, isn't it? Are you a spontaneous poster or a planned poster?
Planned for sure.
What's your favorite book genre besides your own?
I would say mystery fiction.
Love that. What is your favorite writing place?
Outside in nature.
Yes. Are you a sweet or savory person?
Oh, sweet, for sure.
What is your favorite food?
Is chocolate a food? I'm going to say
Yeah,
chocolate.
it can be. I say it's a food group, all of its own. What is the best feeling?
Excitement.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. What is your favorite vacation spot?
It would have to be in nature, so like bush rather than beach.
I like that. What is your favorite tool to use in content creation? Making you pick today.
Oh, you are. So I'm going to say how I schedule my content, and that is just through Meta Business Suite. So that's my favorite.
I actually like the Meta Business Suite too.
Mm.
What is your favorite writing snack?
Chocolate again.
Chocolate. That makes perfect sense to me, actually. And lastly, what is one word to describe your book?
Hope.
Hope. I love that. That's great. Awesome. Well, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Thank you so much, Shonda. And thank you so much for having me today. And they were fantastic questions. Because some of them I had to think about. I wasn't quite sure. So my name is Mel Daniels. I am a content marketing strategist. I am also now an author, which is really exciting to be able to say, of The Power of Content. I'm a podcast host of the Powerful Content podcast, and I love to guide big-hearted entrepreneurs with small businesses to really use content in a purposeful and powerful way so that they can really call in the warm leads and convert their clients. So I do that through one-on-one work as well as a beautiful membership. And yeah, I've just really loved to help them uncover their true selves when it comes to their content and to use their strengths to their advantage as well.
I love that. You're speaking my language when you speak authenticity. That's just something that I firmly believe in. And I think that as authors and entrepreneurs is so crucial. Can you give us a brief overview of the power of content and what inspired you to write it?
Okay, so the people I serve inspired me to write it. I never had one of those aha moments where I went, oh my goodness, this is it. Oh, I'm going to write a book. For me, it's been, I'd almost say like a lifelong desire. Like it's always been in the back of my head. As a young child, I was very creative and I love to write and I love to create poetry and I love to create musicals based on various songs out there. Like I was quite a creative kid, but I never had that actual outlet. So there's always been that desire in the back of my head to write a book. So it was working with a coach, a business coach, that actually tipped me over the edge, so to speak. So she was just an amazing woman. And I kind of had this thought, could I write a book? And she was like, hell yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yes, I can. I just needed that kind of like input from someone else, a bit of belief that it was possible, and I started writing it. So my inspiration, is definitely the people that I serve, because I felt like they needed to hear that they can be more themselves and it can feel authentic, as you said, and it can feel good to actually create something. So that's kind of like my inspiration for writing the book. And the book itself is, well, I want people to take from it what they need. It's not like necessarily a book that you read from beginning to end. There might be times where you need a particular part and you need to go back and look at it. And the reason that I say this is because we're all on a different journey in terms of our business and life. And I think that there is something for everyone. But if I was going to kind of pull out two themes, I would say first is to be more you. And that's about blocking out the noise around you and really trusting your intuition and strengths, which can be hard, especially for big-hearted entrepreneurs, to know that they can do content their way rather than the way that people are actually telling them that they should be doing it. And I feel like when you do that, when you can be more yourself, and when you're not trying to be like someone else or someone who you think you need to be, then everything just flows so much easier. So that's probably the first thing, to be more you. And then the second message is really about human connection. We're built for human connection. There's the two of us here talking today. We have, we're connecting with all the people who are listening and watching this recording, and that's really special. And I think that when we embrace this thought about connection and how there's humans on the other end of every piece of content that you create, then the content creation process itself becomes so much easier, and life becomes easier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. What is the content effect framework, and how can it help authors and entrepreneurs create content more effectively?
Okay, awesome. So the content effect is what my book is actually based on, and it's how you move through your content creation journey. So it's really, starting off not knowing anything, where to start, what to do, through to becoming that inspirational person in your community. So those 5 stages are connect, align, become, impact, and inspire. So throughout those 5 stages, you're moving through the holistic content marketing method as well. And it's about really starting with heart, and then using your mind. So that's around the purposeful processes. And then the last stage is your soul, which is the inspirational stage. So that's the content effect framework. And within each of those stages, like I said, there's different things that you can learn about the way that you create content, learning about yourself first and foremost, learning about who you're talking to, how you talk to them, and then building communities and inspiring them as well. So that's the content effects journey. And what was the second part of the question?
How can the authors and entrepreneurs create content more effectively by using that?
Yeah, so I think that it's understanding that you really need to start from the beginning, and the beginning is you. So often with our marketing, we are told to think about, the person who we're writing for, but I want people to start with themselves, and I want them to feel really comfortable in who they are as people, and especially what their values and core beliefs are. Because once you know your values and your core beliefs, and you're really strong on that, and you can really just bring them to everything that you do. It also drives the way that you create. It drives what you create. It drives when you create. It just has such a huge impact. So I feel like I guess the message that I really want people to hear is that they can be themselves, and they need to think of themselves first.
That's amazing. I love all of that. I think that that's something that a lot of people really struggle with. And so sometimes we just need the permission from other people to be ourselves, because we are so focused on, especially as an entrepreneur, we got to sell a product, and it's always about the product. And so I love the approach of start with you first, because then the rest will kind of align up, later on. How do you define authenticity in content creation, and why is it so crucial for authors and entrepreneurs?
So for me, authenticity is about being yourself, but about being yourself within boundaries as well. I think that when people hear, oh, they need to be themselves, or they need to show more of themselves on social media or in their content, they immediately think, oh my goodness, I have to open up my entire world to the world, and I'm not ready for that. Like, I have to talk about my life. I have to talk about my challenges. I have to talk about bad experiences that have happened in my life. I have to be this massive open book. And I don't believe that to be true at all. I think that authenticity is more about the boundaries and what you are not willing to share than what it is that you are willing to share. So that's what I truly think that authenticity means. And so when you're thinking about creating content from that space, it becomes a lot easier. There's no gray area. It's like a hell yes or a no way that I'm going to actually share this piece of content. So yeah, and I think the flip side of that as well is when you really understand who you are as a person, content creation is so much easier because you come from a space where you're not trying to be like someone else or trying to be someone you think that you need to be. You're being yourself. And when you get to be yourself, then that's so much easier.
Yeah,
you don't have to
absolutely.
pretend.
Yeah, that's really neat. I like that too because I think too part of being authentic with your audience definitely looks different than being authentic with your best friend, right?
Oh,
Like you can
yes.
be yourself with your best friend and there, you don't really have to filter yourself as much, but when it comes to being yourself with your audience, it's a little different because you do have to consider what it is that you are selling or promoting to them too. And does it align with, like you said, your core values and your mission and your purpose and things like that too? So there is a fine line in between that, and you can absolutely set those boundaries. I think that's great. What was the transition like from the corporate world to being a full-time mom and then an online entrepreneur?
So I look at my working life in those 3 stages actually, and I have loved every single one of them. I never sit here and I think to myself, oh, I wish I could go back to that, or I wish I could do that again. For me, each of those stages has been a challenge within itself, and I love a challenge. So it's just been a wonderful life experience, a truly wonderful life experience. The transition between the two sometimes has been a little bit tricky because when we're doing something new, as everyone knows, you aren't sure of yourself, you lack a little bit of confidence, you might spend a lot of time researching what you should be doing. So those transition periods were a little bit fuzzy, but all I can say is that I have absolutely enjoyed every single one of them. And yeah, I don't ever wish for something else in my life.
I love that. I think that's amazing. What are some common content creation challenges you see others facing, and how does your book address those?
It's common content challenges. There are so many, isn't there? Like,
There are.
so I would start with not knowing what to say. I think a lot of people just don't know where to start. A lot of people are not consistent. I think consistency is a really huge challenge because we all know that consistency equals visibility, which equals in the end more sales of whatever it is that you're selling. So yeah, there's lots and lots of challenges. And I think that I can't really pick out one of them that's really, a standout. But there's lots of different frameworks within the book itself. So as an example, I'll just give you one, the consistency piece. If we're feeling like that we are not showing up on a regular basis, whatever that looks like for you, there is no shoulds when it comes to consistency. You don't have to post every day on social media. You don't have to send an email every week. You don't have to do a podcast every week. Whatever consistency looks like for you is about turning up when you say that you're going to turn up. So consistency can be helped along by my 4P framework, which is being prepared. It is having a plan. It is producing the content and then having a process around that. So that's just one example that I can pull out of the book. So being prepared is about thinking about all of the things that you could possibly talk about with your product or your service. I think that sometimes we get told that we need to silo or bucket our content, and I don't think that that's necessarily true. The reason for that is if we're thinking of our content in terms of those buckets or the silos or just like a typical piece of content, then we're not thinking about all of the things that we could possibly share that our ideal client needs to know. We kind of limit ourselves a little bit. So being prepared is getting all of those ideas out of your head and onto paper. Planning is around really putting this into place. So what's the bigger picture? What am I trying to achieve with both my business and my content? And how can I bring that to a space where I'm organized and it actually flows for both myself and my ideal client? And then produce is obviously getting stuck in and actually producing it. And then the last one, process, is, what are those steps that you have to bring your content to the world? How can you make it easier for yourself and for outsourcing it as well? And then how can you turn your one piece of meaty, binge-worthy content, which is usually a blog, podcast, or a video, into micro content as well? So that's around the process. Now, within all of that, I would say the challenge is that, especially with big-hearted entrepreneurs, they like to create content in a certain way. And so when we're told that we should be doing things a certain way, then that can be really hard and heavy for us. So if we can lean into our strengths, and I have 4 different content creator archetypes, and I can just tell you right now, Shonda, you are so the precision planner, can I say? There is the planner, the free spirit, the collector, and the observer. And no matter what type of content creator you are, I want you to know, or I want the listeners to know, that you can actually utilize your strengths to your advantage when it comes to content creation. So if you are a free spirit, the free spirits are those people who love to create content when they feel called. They're fairly intuitive people, generally speaking. They would much rather be outside than chained to a desk. And they really create content in the moment when they feel like they're in the flow. Now, those sort of people, you mentioned the word plan to, and they just go, whoa, no, plan. No, that's not for me. But there's ways that a free spirit can actually plan to make sure that when they are in the flow, when they do feel called to create content, that it is purposeful and powerful. Sometimes when we think about creating when we're in the flow, and often as writers, we do this as well, it just tends to come out, and there's not necessarily any structure to it, which is not bad, but there's no structure or no thought about the bigger picture. So if we can think about the bigger picture, even just by doing a high level 90-day content plan, then that's really going to help the free spirits. So it's just really about understanding your strengths and then being able to bring them to the fore.
I love that. As you're saying that, I'm sitting there thinking, yes, I am a planner, but I so wish I could be free-spirited sometimes. But it just like stresses me out to think like that, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm taking. Like, why am I taking this picture? What am I going to do with it? I have to have a plan in order to take the picture. Like, that is just me. I always do plan. So you definitely nailed that one for sure. How can authors embrace their uniqueness and use it to their advantage in content creation?
That's a really good question. How can they embrace their uniqueness? So I would go back to what I said originally about when you create content, whatever that piece of content it is. If you are very strong on who you are as a person, if you start with heart, if you start with your values, if you start with your core beliefs, and you are really, really strong on those, then everything else flows from that. So just as an example, I have 4 core beliefs, and those core beliefs are so entrenched in what I believe to be true in life and in business, and what is possible for my ideal client and us as a human race, basically, that any piece of content that I create is firmly embedded in that. Those 4 core beliefs then go on to help create my message. It then drives the outcomes that I give to my ideal client as well. So my 4 core beliefs are around, the first one is that content has the power to connect us all. It's just up to you how you use it. So that's really about that uniqueness. It's about, understanding your strengths and then bringing it to the world, because you have something to say. Someone needs to hear what you have to say. And the second one is around the way that we look at content marketing. So when you switch from a transactional and numbers, traditional content marketing focus to one that's built on relationships and identifying the human at the other end of the content that you create, then your life and your business, you just experience so much growth, so personal and business growth. The third one is about not having to do #all the things. So when you think about your boundaries, when you think about your time, energy, and resources, then everything flows so much easier. And the last one is that we make a greater impact when we come together. So those 4 things to me are just so intrinsically part of me that I just understand them so much, so that when I actually create content, it comes from that space, comes from that heart space, rather than being formulaic, rather than being something that I should be doing, rather than following someone else's formula or 10-step strategy. Yes, I can take what I need from those formulas and strategies to help me with my skills and my confidence, but I just truly believe that it's about starting with you, starting with heart first.
I love that. That is really neat. That's something I think we all need to remember too, is always, it's again, just remembering to start with you and start with your heart. I like that because that's what people are going to connect to. That's what they are drawn to. And that's what is probably the most beautiful about any individual, is what their heart is. So being willing to share that is amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned breaking free from conventional content strategies. Can you share some tips on how authors can find their creative flow by doing the same?
So it's really about one of the core beliefs that I just spoke about then. It's about breaking free from the traditional content marketing strategies that are based on numbers, that are based on transactions, and really switching that to the humanistic and relationship point of view. And when you can do that, you create this amazing bridge between yourself and the person that you're creating content for. And it's just like from your heart to their heart. And when you have that beautiful connection with someone, when you truly can empathize with them, when you can truly understand what their problems are, and just know that you are such a unique person that you can solve those problems for them, then your content will flow far more easier. So that's the first thing. It's about that human side of things rather than the numbers and transactions. And then the second part of that is understanding your own strengths. So when we understand our content creator archetypes, how we actually like to create content, then we're not going to feel constrained, or not going to feel like burdened by the shoulds. If I'm a free spirit and I'm sitting here hearing from people, oh, you should be posting every single day on social media, and I try and do that, and I try and post on social media every day, and it doesn't work because it feels really forced, and it feels really hard, and it feels really heavy because I'm not creating in the flow. I'm creating when I'm told that I have to create. Then that makes it really, really difficult. I think on the flip side, I am a planner also. So for me, writing the book process was really interesting because I wasn't someone who just sat and necessarily wrote. I had, in the beginning, and we may talk about the journey later, but in the beginning, it was around being structured. I had half a day every week, and that was my writing time, and that's what I had to write. And I had a structure of the book that I worked on with an editor before I started. So I knew exactly the sections that I wanted to write. I didn't necessarily write them in order. I did have that, I don't feel like writing today. So there was that little bit of free spirit about it. But see, that's the beauty, isn't it? If you are a free spirit and you have a structure, then you can create what you want, but know that it has a purpose at the end of it. So I think that this is a really long-winded way of saying, to find your creative flow, start with you, your heart, think about content marketing from a human perspective, and know your strengths.
Know your strengths. I like that. I'm with you on writing. So when you were describing that, the first book I sat down to try to write, I decided to go off of my own and just try to free spirit write and like see what would happen. And it was not good. It was a good lesson in why I like to have an outline and why I plan, because While yes, like usually if I sit down to write, I do write what comes to mind and I try to be creative in the moment. I still like to have that outline that kind of directs me where I'm going
Mm.
next so that I don't miss a key point because that's what ended up happening was I missed so many key points. I'm like, what did I write?
And this is a great example of using your strengths,
Yeah.
right? Like we're all different. We're all different humans.
We are. We are. And I like to test it just to see if that really is a strength that I have or if that's just something I picked up along the way.
Yes.
But it definitely reiterated that, yes, this is what you do. You need an outline so that you can, effectively write. But, I know people who don't use outlines and they do just sit
Mm,
down and they write beautiful books. And it's like, I wish I could do that, but
mm,
I just can't because I get distracted and I forget what I'm doing sometimes. So
mm,
I just need that extra kind of reminder, I guess.
mm.
How do you balance your roles as a business owner, content strategist, author, and mom? Do you have any tips for the listeners?
I don't know that I do a good job, actually. No, I, once again, I think it's starting with yourself and just making sure that you are in a good headspace, if you like, looking after myself first
Mhm.
before everyone else. I'm not terribly good at that. I know that I should do a better job, but I think that that's my one big tip. If you look after yourself first, then everything else will feel so much easier.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. Let me ask you this too. So, when you're writing, you're also an entrepreneur, and not everybody is doing authorship and entrepreneurship side by side. Some start as an author and they're focused on that, and then they become an entrepreneur later. But when you're an entrepreneur first, who then
Mm.
becomes an author, what did your writing process look like? How did you do that and balance both entrepreneurship with authorship?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well, because I
Mm,
don't think I did balance it very well. I decided not to take time out of my life to write the book. I took time out of my business to write my
yeah.
book. So that means there wasn't early mornings, there wasn't late nights. It was during time that I should be working on my business that I wrote my book. And I think that my business definitely suffered as a result of that, because I was
Mhm.
just so focused on writing this book and the things around the book and learning about writing a book, because that in and of itself is such a huge thing. When you have
Yes.
no idea how to write the book and bring it to the world, oh my goodness, that just takes up so much time. So I don't think that I did that balance. Well, I did it in a way that suited me and my
Mhm.
lifestyle at the time.
Yeah.
And the consequence of that, my business not performing as well, was a consequence that I was willing to embrace because I wanted to write the book. So I think that it really comes down to knowing the reason why you want to write the book
Mm.
and fitting that into your life how you best see it fitting into your life. Yeah.
Mm. I like that. That's good. I also struggled because I was in the same boat. It's like you have to decide, do you take from your business or do you take from your personal
Yeah.
time? And some days I chose to take from my personal time and then that suffers because then that's when burnout kind of sets in too. So it's important to try to find balance the best that you can between everything that
Mm.
you're doing. It's not impossible. It's just a challenge. I
It
always
is
say that.
definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
let's see. Your book has inspired even your 75-year-old father-in-law to write his story, which is to me absolutely amazing. What advice do you have for aspiring authors who feel it's too late to start?
Oh, it's just never too late. It really is not too late. When you have a connection to a vision or a purpose, your own vision, your own purpose, and the book fits into that, then it just becomes so easy to write. It just becomes like a natural extension of who you are. My father-in-law, for many, many years, he has had the most interesting and varied life. And we have always said to him, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah, no. Oh, no. But I think that, see, even he was able, he's not a particularly healthy person. he was able to sit down and, just every day write a couple of bullet points about a memory that he had, or something that he did, or a story that he wanted to share with people. And I just think that that's just so beautiful, that every single person really does have a book in them. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
It's just whether you have the motivation to actually see the process through and have a connection to a vision or a purpose as well.
I think that's awesome. I love that you inspired him to do that. I think that's incredible. I want to see more older authors start coming out because their stories are so unique, and we need to hear it. We need it.
We certainly do. And they just have so much wisdom, and they have so much experience in life, and so many amazing stories, especially historical stories as well. So,
Yeah. I love that. I think that's amazing. You've mentioned that it's never too late to write the book or do the thing. What advice would you give to someone who feels it is too late? Like what do you think what do you think when someone, even if not necessarily age, but due to circumstances, if they just feel like, I've waited too long and I just really can't do this anymore, it's too late.
I just want to really say to that person, you have a story to tell. You will touch someone's life. There is someone out there that needs to hear what you have to say. And writing a book these days, you don't have to actually get a pen and paper and sit down and write. There's so many different ways you could narrate it. I mean, and get that translated to a script. There's just so many different ways that you can do it. But I just really want to encourage people who are feeling like that there is someone out there that needs to hear what you have to say, and it will change their life. I know that sometimes that seems like a little bit too far-fetched or mind-blowing, but it will truly change their life.
Yeah, well, it will. You never know until you do it. And I think that it's an amazing thing to just say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any upcoming projects or initiatives you're excited about sharing with listeners?
So I would have to say there's a couple. I have, talking about my 4P framework, I have a couple of workshops coming up that help people uncover all of their ideas and get them out into the world. So I'm pretty excited about bringing them to the world. And I'm also looking at updating my podcast as well, which is kind of exciting. Updating my cover art, updating my processes around it, updating the way that I bring it to the world. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that project.
Awesome. That sounds really exciting. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, or any final thoughts you'd like to leave them with?
I would say that I just really encourage you to, first of all, be more you when it comes to your content, when it comes to writing your book, when it comes to writing social media, when it comes to creating any other piece of content out there. Really embrace who you are as a human, because when you do that, you will become more inspirational, and you'll have a greater impact in the world as well.
I love that. I would love for you to share the letter you wrote to our audience as we wrap up today's meeting.
I'd love to share it with you. Dear indie author, it's never too late to write the book, to tell the story, to do the thing. Be courageous. We're all on this earth for a reason, so I want to encourage you to be the best you can be and make a difference. And I don't mean you have to solve climate change or homelessness or conquer space travel. You can if you want to. I want you to be courageous enough in your life to say what needs to be said and to do what needs to be done. And this book that you've been dreaming about writing is what needs to be done. I procrastinated about writing my book because of good old imposter syndrome. I'm not smart enough. I'm not well known enough. I'm not successful enough. Please, please, please don't let that be you. It's your time to shine now. I think life is full of signs and prompts for you to do the thing. In my book, I tell the story of how I needed to let my draft gather dust for almost a year due to my personal circumstances. I felt really sad that it was sitting there, and yet I could do nothing about it. But over 25 years ago, I did a visualization at a work conference and saw myself sitting on a balcony writing a book watching the sunset over water. And when we moved into our new home, I knew the book would be finished. Our balcony overlooked a body of water out to the west. I could see the sunset. It was time. I published my book on my 49th birthday. So consider this love letter your sign. No matter your age, your background, whether you have a draft or not, explore that idea. There's someone out there that needs to hear what you have to say. It's time to be courageous and make a difference.
Hey everyone, it's Shonda Ramsey. Are you looking for the perfect holiday gift? Look no further. I have 3 incredible book bundles just for you. First up is Bundle 1, Anchored in Faith. This bundle has just enough to get someone started, including the authentically anchored book and companion workbook, along with a few extras. Next is Bundle 2, Anchored in Love. This bundle helps someone dive deeper in their faith, the ultimate act of self-love. It includes the authentically anchored book and companion workbook, along with even more extras. And finally, don't miss out on Bundle 3, Anchored in Creativity. This is the ultimate bundle for those ready to go all in on their faith and creatively rediscover their authentic selves. It includes the authentically anchored book and companion workbook, along with most of the companion products. Head over to shondaramsey.com to grab your bundles today. These are the gifts that keep on giving. Merry Christmas! Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Shonda Ramsey. For the show notes and links, head over to shondaramsey.com and don't forget to join in on the conversations on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a show and write a review where you listen to podcasts. Until next time, always remember, every writer deserves to see their words in print.